Okay, good. Okay.
Hi everybody, and welcome to a new season of EastSussexBiker. It's been a long time coming. God, we need to get out and we needed some sunshine. So today I'm taking my new associate out and we are going to do some positioning. And we've already done a first ride just so I can see what he's been up to. But here we are, we're on our second ride now, and we're just in the outskirts of Halsham here in East Sussex, and I'm going along in second position here, which is the sampan position, if you like it, if you're old school, and position 1 is on my left and position 3 is on my right. So here we are, and I'm trying to show him the best practices of the IAM Observed method. And as you can see by my positioning, we're coming up to a right hand bend. Although it's very progressive, it still puts you in this number 1 position, and it's ideal for seeing around the van and also for extending the view. Extending the view means looking as far ahead as you possibly can in order to see what's around the corner or what's ahead of you, and the same for going into position 1 to see what's around the corner across your right hand side view. So here we are in the middle of a right hand bend, so we can see down the right hand side of the van, exposing as much as we possibly can of the view ahead in order to be able to do what we call plan and scan. And this is what I'm trying to get my new associate used to doing, in moving from left to the centre of the lane and to the right near the broken lines, in order to extend the view and make it easier to plan ahead. So this was an ideal bit of road because it goes from left to right and some nice sweeping bends, and an ideal road to see if I can get my new associate used to using the road in the correct way according to the IPSCA method. Okay, so straight off the bat here I do something unusual. Okay, and the whole point of doing that was to go as far across into position 3 and possibly over, just to exaggerate extending the view past that van. Now let's call my associate Bryan. That's not his name, but the whole point of doing that was to make it memorable and see if he actually notices. So when we come to the end of this little ride, this little exercise, I shall brief him and ask him if he saw anything unusual and would he know why exactly that I would do that, and the reasons and the benefits for it. Okay, so as we ride along here, we'll see various options on the left and the right. By options I mean junctions, entrances, driveways, etc. And obviously we have to negotiate those because people might be coming out of those. So again, as we drive along here, or more like ride along here, we're scanning and planning, and we're looking out for these things and making sure that it's clear and we can be in the right position for when we approach any kind of hazard that may actually be at those options or junctions, driveways and lay-bys, etc. So as we come along here, you'll see there's a car on the left hand side that suddenly approaches the junction really quickly, which can cause you to want to swerve. But the whole point of this is to look far enough ahead so that you can see these things and take the appropriate action without actually getting yourself out of control and creating a problem for other road users. So we're coming up to a roundabout now. We're going into a 30-mile-an-hour limit. So there we go, across the imaginary line. There's a driveway there, junction, and here's the car. The car has already come up, but I did see the car approach this, but I've stayed way out so that it doesn't encroach, and I have a little bit of a safety bubble. Over the roundabout, and off we go, still in the 30-mile-an-hour limit. Cyclists on the left there, zebra crossing there, and we come down. We've got a car that's stopping just ahead here on the corner, which bears round to the left. So we're just giving ourselves time here and creating space. As we come round, we've got oncomers coming past parked cars, so again we slow down, we give them the time to get through their hazard there, and away we go. Sometimes giving way just makes things a lot easier rather than causing any confrontation. Right, we're back into a 40-mile-an-hour limit. So at this point I drift into position 1 because I wanted to see again if Bryan noticed where I moved over to and whether he may query why I did that. So we're going around a right hand bend here with a junction. We're sort of in position 1. So following the road round as we go, staying in position 1, which allows me maximum view ahead, extending the view. Road goes round to the right, so we stay where we are, and as we come up to the next bend I shall move across into position 3, which will allow me to see round the corner, again extending the view in position 3, then come back into position 2 where I will create my safety bubble again. And of course all during this process I'm monitoring my mirrors as well. Here we are on the left hand bend, using as much of the road as I possibly dare without offsiding, and all to try and see what's ahead and any oncomers. So the whole point of positioning is to put yourself in the best place on the road, also to create a safety bubble so that you are protecting yourself whilst you're riding. And only you can do that, but you have to be looking ahead and scanning and planning and looking forward further enough to be able to make decisions to create your safety bubble. Now you can ride in position 2 all day long, but there are times when obviously being over to position 1 and position 3 are much more advantageous than it is to stay in a safety bubble and just sit in the middle of the road. This will allow you a better thinking process, a more balanced view of the ride that you're doing, and be able to take appropriate positioning to make or get the best from your ride and to make it more smooth. Right, so that was a quick demo to show Bryan positioning and also to give him something to think about, and maybe try and sort of encourage him to ask questions as to why I was in position 1, 2 or 3, and then we can discuss the merits of being in those positions. So we pull over here and we have a bit of a debrief. So at this point in the session we usually pull over, have a bit of a debrief and try and get some feedback on what he's just seen and how he feels this could improve his ride, and if he was following the lines, how did he feel his ride went in comparison with how he normally rides, and did this make much of a difference in the way that he was thinking and using the road. Right,
When you're ready.
now his turn to lead and see if he can replicate what he's just seen in comparison to the way he normally rides, because now that he's seen it in practice, he may be able to grasp it easier than me trying to explain it to him, and I always find that that is a better way to encourage people to change their ride rather than to
get the idea of how
me follow them and just try and explain where I want them every time we stop and have a debrief. So some people learn things differently, and sometimes visually it's easier to show people rather than to explain, this is what we want you to do, and I want you to move out, I want you to create a safety bubble, and so on and so forth. So by him following me gives him the opportunity to consider all the options, and some probably that he will never have even considered, and then get him to lead and see how that changes his ride from there on. That then does make it easier to try and change things a little bit by saying, you know how you did that, you know how you pulled up at the junction, ideally we need you here or we need you there, can you remember how I did that? And these are just little tools of how to get people into position and to do things that you want them to do, to bring them up to the standard, to pass an IAM test. So in the early stages of training, what I tend to do is say to the Bryan, right, I want you to take me to so-and-so, a destination, let's say, of his choice that he knows, and then I will follow him, and that way then he doesn't have to worry about watching my signals to turn left or right. I normally do this on the third outing, because that way then I will be able to check his rear observation. But for the meantime, I want him to concentrate without having to worry about other things that I want him to do. So I want him to concentrate on his positioning, try and take in what he's picked up from the last part of the ride, and then show me what he can do, and then again we'll stop, have a debrief and see if we can tweak that and tailor it so that it meets the needs of IPSCA. So last time we were out, I found that Bryan, when he came to traffic lights, would come to a standstill and he would hold the bike in gear with the clutch in, and I asked him why he did that. He had no real valid reason for that, so we then discussed the merits of going into neutral at the traffic lights to avoid a rear end shunt which could throw him completely out of control into oncoming vehicles. It was such a beautiful day to be out on the bike. It was a fantastic opportunity to make the most of the good weather and take him through his paces and give him a bit more time to show me what he can do. But I put together a couple of bits and pieces that things that he did that I pointed out to him in the debrief that were somewhat questionable. Yeah, so on this junction here, he turned off right immediately after a passing car, and I just felt that was a little bit close to the one following. I think he should have waited, basically. So nice brisk acceleration here through into the national speed limit, and positioning there on position 3, and then coming back into position 2, and coming across almost to position 1 for the oncomer, and then back out to position 3 for the left hand bend. As we progress, we go through the crossing there, through the zigzags, and then we come up against some traffic. So it was interesting to see what he was going to do here. So we just tickle along here at the speed limit, and then he decides to pick up pace and he goes round the cyclists. He was all within the speed limit there, which was good, but was just making progress and giving way to the cyclists. Okay, so we're on the move, we're getting into the rhythm of the road, and his positioning is good. As we come up behind a cyclist, this is where it kind of falls apart. So that car's gone, the oncomer's there, not a great decision there. He's narrowed the bubble of safety, which puts him at risk. If he'd just hung on a little bit longer, and that's what all this extending the view is all about, if he'd seen that one coming, he could have avoided that. And there was no reason why he couldn't have seen it, because obviously it wasn't like it was on a bend or anything like that. So there was just an error of judgment there. So here we are, we're on the move again through these lovely lanes and sweeping left to right, and then we go downhill to a right hand bend, so we're slowing, a little bit of comfort braking there. Didn't really need to do that, and again that's because he wasn't looking ahead and there was an element of doubt there. So this is why it's so important to keep your head up and look as far afield as you can to extend the view. I was a bit disappointed here. It was a good opportunity to extend the view. I wanted him to come out here, and in the original commentary I was encouraging him to come out, but it didn't happen, and so we discussed that later on as to why was he where he was at that time. Nice piece of road here, good positioning, coming up behind the other car in front, and obviously lining up looking for an overtake. Bryan started to get very consistent here, which began to worry me, because I thought maybe I'd done too good a job. I would have liked him to have come out here just by this lay-by, but other than that he did very well, and he was picking up pace and keeping himself busy. Positioning wise he was very good, and then as we came to this junction all was good. He kept himself moving, no need to stop there. I was just making sure, and then I had a little bit of work to do to try and catch up with him. But other than that, that was a good little stretch, and the ride had improved greatly within a very short space of time, and you know, gave us something to talk about, which was good. So on the previous ride we came up to this very same area, and Bryan decided to deal with this in a very, very different way. This was nicely thought out, and he processed this well, and away he goes. However, on the last ride that wasn't quite the same. There was a picture showing what actually happened, and he kind of hurried the manoeuvre and wanted to get through, and of course then you can see he got himself trapped, which wasn't really a very good move. So basically, all in all, we had a really good ride in some beautiful weather, so we treated ourselves and went to the 1066 Cafe, which as you can see was very busy and is a very popular place to be. Yeah, we had another debrief here and discussed having another session, and yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this, hope you found it useful. So like and subscribe, and hope to bring you another session at a later date. Thanks for joining me. EastSussexBiker saying goodbye.